everyone. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Goose Creek Board of Trustees to order. The time is 6:05 p.m. Mr. Sampson, was this meeting properly posted?
Yes, it was.
And do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
All right. Before we begin opening exercises, we are going to pull agenda item C1D from tonight's agenda. Turn it over to Ms. Jackson.
Okay, good evening, President Clem, Dr. O'Brien, and board members. Tonight's opening exercises will be presented by yourself, so we appreciate that participation. The first will begin opening ceremony with a prayer led by Mr. Renteria. Will everyone please rise?
We're thankful for the blessings we have serving, and we pray that God will be with us as we organize for the coming year and finish up last year simultaneously. Pray that God will bless us, that we might be able to conduct all the business that we need to conduct, that we might be able to discern and figure out the things which we have to figure out. Thankful for our leaders that came to an agreement with our taxes, that it might hopefully help us in making some of these decisions. We pray that God would guide us tonight. We're thankful for our soldiers and our police officers who protect us and guide us and serve us and put their life on the line every day. We pray that God would watch over them and their families, and all our first responders also, wherever they may be and whatever. Thankful. We pray that God would be with us tonight, and we might have a good meeting, and these things and all the things we stand in need of, we ask for in the name of our elder brother and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please join me.
The flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I, the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. You may be seated. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to President Clem for citizens' participation.
And as we all know, citizens' participation is the time that the board will hear public concerns and public comments from those who have properly signed up to address the board. At regular board meetings, the board shall permit public comment regardless of whether the topic is an item on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. At all other board meetings, public comment shall be limited to open session items on the posted agenda. Each speaker is reminded that he or she is limited in his or her presentation to a maximum of 3 minutes, and that he or she should respect confidentiality concerns and refrain from attacking the personal character of any individual student, staff member, or board member in addressing concerns or comments. Pursuant to state law and board policy be illegal, the board cannot consider or take action on concerns at this meeting unless they let's try that again. And the board may not take action or concerns at this meeting unless they pertain to an item on the posted agenda for this meeting. Any deliberation or decision on an item that is not posted for consideration at this meeting shall be limited to a proposal to place the subject on the agenda of a future meeting. Our speaker tonight is Kim Kostick.
There we go.
Okay.
Good evening.
Mr. Sampson will let you know when time's. You're on.
Right. Good evening, members of the board, Dr. O'Brien, President Clem. I'm happy to hear that Goose Creek wishes to embrace the ideology of government transparency, yet I still stand before you confused to why there are incomplete agendas posted. You referred to be illegal just then, but yet there's also a modification that will be coming for be illegal. I've long awaited the update for the FFI policy, and I'm excited to see what appears maybe not to be an update yet, with no policy enclosed and a note that says to see explanatory note with no additional attachment. And to me, this seems hardly like transparency. I'm going to hope that this note would say that there are no changes yet because you're still working on FFI and that the policy is still being developed. However, the note says to see enclosed, yet there is nothing enclosed for the public to see. So the public is only allowed to see these things after the case. I can only assume that this was provided to the board to decide upon, yet this policy and all of the over 30 policies that are being updated in almost every area, that the public is not allowed to see any of these updates or what these replacements are. When will we get to see them? Are we not allowed to understand them before and comment? Consent agendas are typically reserved for rubber stamps, and I get that the administration needs to approve required updates that are legal updates. And anything beyond that with those are outside of the district's control. However, local updates do have some wiggle room. So again, I ask, why is the public not privy to the updates prior to them being passed, although we are expected to follow and understand each of these procedures? If transparency is important to Goose Creek, as they claim, and then this would be the place to start with that, and that is showing within the board meetings the transparency that you want to display. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Our next item is approval of minutes from the June 26, 2023 regular board meeting.
I move to approve the minutes.
A second.
Have a motion from Mr. Campisi and a second from Mrs. Barat-Timms to approve the June 26, 2023 regular board meeting minutes as written. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. See 6-4-0 against, motion passes. And now, pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, the board will recess into a closed session to consider reorganization of the Board of Trustees. No action will be taken while the board is in closed meeting. The time is 6:13. It's an open session. No decisions were made when the board was in closed session. The time is 7:01 p.m. We will now move to agenda item 7, reorganization of the Board of Trustees.
Okay. I'll make a nominate. I'll make a motion. Not a motion. I have to say I nominate the same slate of officers as sitting.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we will vote on Ms. Barat-Timms' nomination to keep the same slate of officers we currently have. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Have 5-4-1 against. Motion passes. We'll move to agenda item 7, discussion items, superintendent's reports.
Yes, our first superintendent's report this evening is a benefits update from 23-24 school year. Dr. Bollinger and Ms. Myers will be presenting.
Which benefit?
Good evening. Okay, good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. O'Brien, Ms. Myers and I are here tonight to give a presentation on the benefits update. So we want to explain a little bit about what our status is with the insurance rates and then also talk a little bit
about our next steps. And so here's our agenda for this presentation. First of all, we want to give a little bit of a medical insurance history on the options that our employees currently have. There have been some recent concerns that have been brought up, hence this presentation, and so we want to talk about what those concerns are, what's been vocalized. We want to show our current medical rates that our staff is looking at for the 23-24 school year. Also look at the plan design within those two options, and then we want to share our next steps moving forwards with some alternative plans and some exploratory options that we've been looking at in the last few weeks since we've received the new rates. And so Ms. Myers is the expert, and I'm going to turn it over to her, and she's going to walk us through this presentation.
All right, so can y'all hear me? Okay. Good afternoon. So this is just a little history about the medical rates and just where we are right now. We have the TSHBP 90-degree plan as the high deductible and the copay plan. And then now we also have the Aetna Signature Plan, which is initially was designed to be the TRS Active Care alternative plan. It was designed to capture the TRS plans for easy transition, which y'all are aware of that. Also, our plan design changes and initially was created based on the TRS plans, the rates due to lack of claim status. And so we've actually been working on collecting all the data for the claim status for the last year to be able to review possible options moving forward. Now for this year, we do have a significant rate increase. The rate increase is actually due to market cost, utilization, and also facility cost. Some of the concerns that we've received over the last year, particularly the last few months, have been with the global insurance premiums. They're increasing in all sectors, so not just with health insurance, also with home insurance and auto insurance. We have had some premium increases on the district plans, and so that is for this year moving forward. There is a lack of access to Methodist Hospital on our 90-degree plans, and we've continued to work with Methodist to try to alleviate some of that, and we have not been successful. Also, there has been some lack of access to MD Anderson. Area physicians that are not taking 90-degree plan has come up as a concern. We do have a few area physicians that are opting out of the plan for the next year, so we are aware of that. The pharmacy benefits have been different on all the plans and not covering all of the generics as they were before on the TRS plan, and so we're working through a couple things with that as well. And then employees are having to travel to other participating providers outside the Baytown area to be able to get health care and services. And so those are some of the concerns that have been brought up that we're kind of working through with options moving forward. The next slide shows our rates as they are set right now for the 23-24 year. And so there has been a rate increase on the high deductible plan through 90-degree and also the copay plan. As you can see, there's a monthly cost for the 2022 year, and then what our new monthly cost is for the 2023 year. The monthly difference, the annual difference, and the number of employees we have enrolled on those plans. The next screen actually shows the actual plan design of the high deductible plan. And so with the plan design, what the networks were for last year, what they will be for this year. And so there is an increase from $3,000 to $3,500 on the high deductible plan. And then the out-of-pocket maximums have gone up as well for the, and not really the out-of-pocket maximum, it's actually the family deductible has gone up on that plan.
What plan is this?
This is the high deductible plan.
No, but on what?
The TSHBP.
What does that stand for?
That's Texas School Health Benefits Plan.
And this is not the same one we were on last year?
It is the same one.
Weren't we on TRS?
No, we haven't been on TRS. This past year, this current year, we're off TRS. TRS was
okay,
the
so we were on TRS. We just
the 21-22 year we were on TRS.
Why would we switch?
Why did we get off of TRS? Yeah. For locally governed power. There were a couple. I'm sorry?
For what?
For local governing power. So we were the 21-22 year, we offered an alternative medical plan. And 50% of our organization moved over to the alternative medical plan, which is the TSHBP 90-degree plan. The other 50% stayed on TRS. So when Senate Bill 1444 came out, we had to make a decision as a district to either stay with TRS or to move over to the alternative medical plan. And so we made a decision as a district to move over to the alternative medical plan because 50% of our organization were in both sets of plans.
So what was your chief reason for moving to this plan?
For the
board did? Us?
Yes.
Yes,
We did?
we did.
Based upon.
And it was based upon
It was
a history
based
of
upon-
increased rates.
It was based
Usually you'll have
upon-
an increase, it'll come down, an increase, it'll come down, but they continued to go up.
It really came down to TRS was unable to tell us their rates by the point we had to adopt a budget, and they wouldn't tell us their rates.
I don't remember hearing about this plan.
But isn't TRS is required to give the district
No.
information by a certain day before?
It was June. June is when they
still
were.
after the fact that
Right.
you need to notify the employees and they start.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So you didn't get it prior, no information prior to that.
Right.
So was this a recommendation from you guys to us to switch boards? I mean, to switch insurance?
Yes, during the 2022, 2021 year. Yes.
Okay. Now let's go back to the question. What was your chief reason for recommending to us that we switch boards? I mean, switch insurance?
So due to the rate increases from TRS and not having governing power over our medical insurance plans, we exhausted other options and offered an alternative medical plan. When TRS gave us the option, or actually gave us the option to opt out due to the Senate Bill 1444, we took the option to opt out of TRS and to be able to have more power and offer possibly better plans to our employees.
But did they lock? Oh, sorry. Did they lock us into any time frame? Like someone like a outside consultant who we have worked with, and I know Goose Creek has one. What is that? TP. Yes. So with having that, did they have like a certain lock in any rates or anything? How long of a period of time did they give us a locked in rate, or they didn't? It just changes as the data comes in.
TRS is every year.
Every year. They don't lock in anything. Wow.
All of them, right.
No, they have some other ones that give you like a 3-5 year.
It usually depends on the claims data and as it comes in from the previous year. You may have a locked-in possible increase that won't be over like 4% or 5%, but usually they don't guarantee you won't have an increase at all.
And I can tell you, not having the specific history that Ms. Myers has, but I just know being part of the process, whenever the transition was occurring, that there were several districts not happy with TRS. We were one of those districts. Whenever we transitioned to this insurance plan, originally it was cheaper, it was more affordable, and we did have access to Houston Methodist. And then over the last 2 years, the items such as that have changed. And so as a result, the insurance is not as favorable as it used to be whenever we first got onto the plan.
But that's what I'm hearing. That's why I'm asking these questions. And, I don't know how long we were on TRS. I mean, how long were we using TRS?
So we were on TRS from 2009 until 2022.
One more hard question, ma'am. Are you on the board of this company that we're using?
Yes, I am. For TSHPP, I am part of their district representative board.
I would think that's a conflict of interest, if you ask me. But I'm just asking the hard questions I always do.
Right.
And,
So I'm on that board as a district representative. The other board members are also district representatives, and we represent the district and also the region in which we are housed.
Right.
And so it's just providing information on what's needed throughout our district. And if we have concerns and things that are coming up, then we take that to the executive board so they're aware of that and be able to make changes for the plans.
Just for clarification, I know we need to move on, but I'm on the executive board for Region 4, for example. It's an unpaid position. I'm assuming you'd like to clarify that's an unpaid position that you're in.
Yes, it's a strictly voluntary basis, and so there's no pay or anything associated. It's strictly a district representative.
To provide information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the next plan is the copay plan, and there's been and actually the deductible on that plan has gone up by $500, and so it's now $4,000. And then for the out of network, it's gone up to $5,000. The copays do have a different structure, so they've gone up a little bit on the primary care and also the specialist. And then the looks like the urgent care has gone up $70 to $75. It was $50. And so part of the plan design is because of the changes in utilization, also market costs and facility costs. And so those have gone up. And so that's the reason why there's an increase on the plan. The next plan we have is the Aetna HD plan and also the Aetna Signature plan. The Aetna HD plan is actually being discontinued across the state of Texas for next school year due to low enrollments in that plan and having access to the other HD plan. And so the Aetna Signature plan does have a significant increase. You can see the 2022 plans and also the 2023 plans, the difference there, the monthly cost, and then also the annual difference cost. The Aetna Signature plan right now is the only plan that we have that provides access to Methodist Hospital. So on the next slide, no, you're fine. The next slide, the copay, the deductible has gone up, so it was $2,000, now it's $4,000. The copays are still pretty comparable to where they were. So it was $30 for a primary care, now it's going to be $45. And then the specialist copay is staying the same. Right, so the family out-of-pocket, and actually on all of the plans, the family out-of-pocket is usually always higher. But on this plan, it was $15,000. Now it's going up to $20,000.
Crazy. A lot of money.
So for the next steps moving forward, one of the things, the very top one that's listed on here is that we have actually already started this process and created a benefits committee for collaboration and district representation. And so we have a group of district members, several teachers, auxiliary staff, some of our executive administrators as well that are on this committee that we will review options as they come in for optional plan design and what that may look like for creating another plan for our district, looking for a possible traditional plan that has access to Methodist and has some of the lower cost. We're also working with several consultants, third-party administrators to identify possible plan options, whether it be a self-insured plan or another level funded plan, which is what we're in currently. And so we are getting some of those back that we will be reviewing as a committee and then possibly bringing that to the board. We're exploring new plan option start dates and what may possibly be available. And then, of course, we're always looking to see where we need to do as far as our clinic services that we have available and to provide support to our medical plans and be able to provide additional services to our employees. Yes, ma'am.
So when you're saying, one of the things that your concerns are accurate, I can see that. But my only question is, why didn't we address this before going into the plan?
I'm sorry.
Like address the steps or the cost before we even accepted the plan that we...
So the plan for this year?
Yes.
Right. So we just received the new rates for this year in June. So due to the legislative sessions that were going on, the rates were delayed because there was there were several sessions that had to do with state funding and district contributions. And so that had already passed the House bill, but then when it got to the Senate bill, it died, and there was no additional funding that was given to any of the districts. And so with that, it caused the rates to be released later. And so we just got the rates for the new plan for this year.
Yeah, no, our last meeting you didn't have them, yeah. And you just got them
last month.
Okay.
So we got it mid-June.
Okay.
And so that's the reason why we're coming to you now with all the information that we've been able to gather, what the rates look like. Also, we were hopeful to try to develop a contract or some type of agreement with Methodist Hospital to be able to keep that as part of our plan for us to continue doing this for one more year, right, and then be able to look at additional options later on and not feel like we're trying to make a rush decision.
You feel like why you should trust them now at this point? Since they're going to, with the meaning, with the, yeah.
Right, and so that's why we're also looking at additional options now, trying to see what could
But with TPA, I've read so much about them, and you're looking at them to be a third-party consultant?
No, so TPA is a third-party administrator, so we're actually looking at several different administrators.
Yeah, because TPA, they were doing things for other districts, and other districts who have totally pulled out the plan. I know Dr. O'Brien had mentioned, we had a discussion about looking at our own, but he also brought that up how hard that is on administration, the cost of it, and it just wouldn't be feasible for the district to do their own health plan, but to look at an individual plan. But we just have to look at other third-party admin and look at, and that's a great choice to do that, of consulting with someone. But I just see that if we just doing TPA, I've just seen so many other districts like Spring, they've all pulled out, Dickerson, and just reading some things up on this since we received this, and had concerns with TPA because of the relationship that they have with y'all have so many acronyms, I can't keep up with them, that TSHBPP. They have like a relationship with that. So I wouldn't trust that.
So what's actually on the screen is third-party administrators. It's not actually identifying any individual companies we're working with. We've actually worked with, are actually pulling data and looking at several different third-party administrators. UBC is one of them. We're also looking at one called I1 Benefits. So we have several that we're doing some research on and looking at and having them pull some information for us to see what a plan may look like for our district.
Good.
So we're not working with any one particular third-party administrator. We're looking for options and what's available, and then being able to bring that back to the board on the couple different options.
Because I'm severely concerned with our staff, especially those who need MD Anderson, those who need, especially with Methodists, because for myself, is retiring and bringing everything back to have physicians that are close proximity as San Jacinto Methodist is. And those who were, because I know how hard it is when you were in care of something and having a major illness and I know I'm not speaking, I'm speaking to the choir, but I'm just speaking, my opinion of this is that I just hope that we take the severity of it and look at it for we have some teachers to, stay with us and stay put and work hard and get in those classrooms and let's get our kids learn, but they're dependent on us to make this other part of their life easy. So we have to really, really dig deep into that.
Well, I could tell you, I was going to say this real quick, that I know that Ms. Myers and Ms. Clark and her department have set up several meetings over the last 2 weeks with various consultants, various TPAs to find rates that are better than the rates that we have right now that give us access to our local hospitals like Houston Methodist. And so we know that time is not on our side. We know that we receive the rates later than we normally do due to legislation. We know that that if we're going to make a dramatic change by September 1, it's going to take fast action. And so we're in the process of working with Dr. O'Brien and working. We just formed this committee. We're going to meet with that committee, provide several options, and if there's a better route to go, and we need to work extremely fast to get to that route by September 1, we're going to do that. This impacts our employees. This impacts us, and so we know that of course it's in our best interest to find the best rates.
Making less money because the rates went up.
And what about the folks who we were contracted with that was doing this? Hey, did they receive like a what do you call it? Founder's fee? I don't know what you call it.
Commission or whatever.
A commission.
Yeah.
I would like our attorneys to go after them and say, hey, you need to forfeit your commission so we can put that money and give it to our employees so we can add more to what the Goose Creek gives. I'm quite sure they made a heck of a commission.
For 90 Degree or the medical insurance we're with?
Yes.
So they have 61 districts that are under
Right.
APP.
Oh, okay.
So
that was my next question.
Fees. It's set up the same as what TRS has set up and any other governing insurance bodies, where there are administration fees, but they're not making money off of commission. They do have administration fees, but outside of that, it's their normal governing and actually paying out in claims.
So I just wanted to add to Mr. Renteria's question about why did we switch from TRS, and we're in a different era in time for one, but at that time, what I recall is that TRS had a monopoly and they continued to increase their rates year after year after year after year, and it seemed like there was never relief. So we were acting in the best interest to say, well, let's allow our employees to have options. They can choose this option or choose that option instead of staying with the highest rate in the land, if you will. And that's the initial cause and reason, or cause and effect, for why the board was brought options. I think that's important to point out.
What impact will this have on the budget we just adopted?
Good question.
That's a good question for Ms. Clark, and Leanna may know, Ms. Dixon may be able to answer it better than I can, but I know that the district contribution has not changed.
That's the point. District contribution, if the board opts to increase district contribution, that would be coming from the fund balance, so to speak, or an equalization of the budget. So it could be a board. Right.
Second thing, another thing I'd like, I don't know if I heard you right, Ms. Myers, but I think you said that you were basing this or waiting for the legislature to give y'all some information. And like I told Bridget that last time, we can't be basing our money on the legislature because they don't respond the way we'd like them to, or the way Randy would like them to.
That's correct.
But I'm just saying, so.
Right. Well, I wasn't waiting on legislator. It was our governing board for the insurance that was waiting on the district, or waiting on the state funding, because if they increase the district contribution or the state contribution, then that would make changes to the rates, because they would actually be contributing more towards, and it would balance out the
And this is
budget.
my point. It's usually an unfunded mandate when they do stuff like that.
Right.
Just, and keeping what.
One other question I have. If we do that and look at that, when you had mentioned about the increase in what the district gives to each employee, that may be something that we have to look at, especially when we look at some of our employees who don't make a lot. And and this is the only insurance that they have, and how important that is to our families. Yeah. So we may have to look at a portion of that, and I hope we do, and kind of give us something that we'll look at if what we need to increase it by, whether it's $50. I know some districts are going to do $50.
And that's what I believe the meetings that you talked about, hosting meetings in the near future about proposing that.
And we have done that in the past. So initially when I started with the district, we were at 250. We went up to 275, and then last year we went up to 310. And so we are more comparable with our area districts that are around us. Some are a little bit higher at 330 for the district contribution. Some are a little bit higher at 411 and 460. So a little bit here, a little bit there.
And when that's come through is to your point, when we adopt the budget, the board is presented as a compensation package. As y'all remember, that's a separate part than the funding mechanism, but that is included usually at the direction of the board. Let's increase this $50. Let's increase this $25, with that correspondence with you prior to the budget adoption. And this year, that didn't come through as another increase because we felt like it would come back competitive as it was last year. I think it was Dr. Bollinger that said everything was sweet and sugary on the front end of a negotiation, and now the rubber meets the road, and what they base their rates on is our employees' claims. So they get that 1 year of data, and the rates go up. So that's sort of what's going on, in addition to the global elevation of medical care costs. It may be where we do put this out for bid every single year. I mean, to your point, we went 12 years, 13 years once before. That'd be great by us. But if it's not competitive and if it's not fair and right for our employees, we'll go out for bid every single year if need be.
So for most insurance plans, you do a year by year. And so you're not really, you can be locked in as far as premium increases and options that they won't increase, more than 4 or 5% for the next year, but you're not necessarily locked in to have to stay with them for 3 or 4 years. So usually it's on a year-by-year contract when it comes to self-insurance.
We were pretty
But
fortunate.
just to echo some of Tiffany's thoughts earlier, before we move, we better make sure that we're making the right move, is all I'm saying. Because I knew a teacher that worked here 20 years ago that left the school district because after they paid insurance, they had no money left over. That was me, believe it or not, 20 years ago. And I went to the plants, so.
And most definitely. And I want to make sure that I say this, that we do not take these decisions lightly. And so we do research. We do look at what's in the best interest of our employees and also the district. And it was been unfortunate, our relationship with Methodist Hospital, that we have really worked hard trying to secure a plan with them and being able to make sure our employees have access to the facility that's here in town. And so we have worked tirelessly trying to do that, and we have not been able to secure something. And so that's the reason why we've had multiple concerns, that we were trying to look at other options, because that was not something that was foreseeable when we initially signed up for this plan, because Methodist was on the plan. And there's been some unfortunate things that have changed since then. And so now we are trying to make sure that our employees have access. And so we do not take it lightly with making the decision of trying to find another plan and what's available. We're doing what's in the best interest of employees. And we hear the concerns. And usually if they have an issue, they contact my office. I always tell them if I don't know about something, I don't know how to fix it. And so if they contact me, I work with Methodist on direct agreements and trying to get access to care for employees who had continuing care, just so they can continue their services until we can come up with an additional plan.
Good.
Or they contact the trustees.
Right.
Yeah.
And then y'all contact me.
Right.
That's why we're.
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
What type of collaboration do you have with other districts, cities, plants to try to combine? You know, we have XYZ amount of employees, but if you put a whole group together, your cost goes down because you got more people that can be insured. Are we able to do that?
So
Co-op.
we have been exhausting or looking at interlocal agreements in certain co-ops to see what's available. A few of the vendors we've contacted through UBC and some other ones, they have a co-op set up like that. And so that's the options we're reviewing now to see what may be available. 90 Degree was actually one of those co-ops as well, the TSHBP that we currently have. And so there are a few other out there that we're looking at exhausting some of those options.
So I don't know exactly how many employees we have, and
4,000.
yeah, so we have more than the city of Baytown, and I know their insurance rate must be enormous, and you have some other school districts around us that if we all put, our cookie dough in the same cookie, it seems like if we got 20 or 30,000 employees all around, it seems like the cost would go down for all the employees.
We've had most of that happens with merchandise that we do co-op for merchandise. Ms. Myers is actually investigating a region center co-op. And that region center is looking at clustering school districts like you're talking about. So that's one of the things that she's investigating right now.
Okay.
That's a great idea to look into that.
All right. Any other questions from board members?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right. What is the 90-degree plan you keep referencing?
So that's the TSHBP.
All versions of it?
Yes.
Okay.
So 90 Degrees is actually the claims administrator on the high deductible, the copay, and also the signature plan.
Okay. And just because I am easily confused, why is the copay plan called that since there's copays in every plan?
So the high deductible plan does not have a copay in that plan.
Yeah, really?
The high deductible plan, you have to meet your deductible.
Okay, so it's all based off the deductible.
Right.
Okay. On one of your concerns, it talks about people traveling to other providers outside of Baytown. Is that a positive concern or a negative concern?
I would say it's a negative concern.
Because they have to or because they're choosing to?
I think on both sides. Well, if they're choosing to, then that would be a positive concern.
Okay.
The negative concern is because they may not have access to Methodist Hospital. So some of the specialists.
And that's a good lead into my next question. When you say Methodist Hospital, are you talking about the entire Methodist system or just Baytown?
So it's the entire Methodist system.
Okay, and I just wanted to be clear on that. on page 5 where you show the rates, and I don't think you really have to turn there, that's what our employees are going to pay after our district contribution.
Yes, sir.
Do they know how much we're contributing to their insurance?
It's not listed on the website, and I know that that was brought up as a concern that we can
Okay.
update and put on the website.
I think that should be a great big red flashing something that, we're trying to help. The employees enrolled number on that same page, is that current as of a certain date, or is that what was on it last year?
So that is current as of right now.
So
we don't have the new enrollment for the 9-1 yet.
I'm sorry?
We don't have the new enrollment for 9-1.
Okay, for September 1st. Sorry, sometimes I get lost. So that's only 960 employees out of said 4,000.
On which plan?
All of those numbers added up together.
So on that's only on the 90-degree plans, on the Aetna signature plan.
So we have
and the high deductible. We have a total of 2,100 employees that are on.
Right, am I missing that on this chart? Or is that not on this chart?
It's on 2 separate slides.
Okay.
So TSHBP is on this slide here, and then a few for about 3 slides down. It's this is the Aetna signature.
Okay, I did not add that in. So we've got another several. Okay, that makes me feel better because
we have 2,100.
Okay, all right. So with that said, any kind of contribution we make is going to have a significant impact on our already deficit budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Keep investigating.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think Dr. Bollinger gets to remain as a part of our next superintendent's report, the teacher incentive allotment. Ms. Brooke will be joining him.
Okay, so this is Brooke Dockery, our Associate Director of Compensation, and we're here to present the teacher incentive allotment and what this means and where Goose Creek is in the process of applying for this this program through TEA. So teacher incentive allotment, or TIA, is what we'll refer to it as. It was a program designed to recruit and retain highly effective teachers, and so that was the intent. The intent was to create a pathway for highly effective teachers to remain in the classroom and to earn a high salary, 6-figure salary is how it was worded. And so that was the intent. It started in 2019 with House Bill 3. It's funded by the Foundation School Program, which means that it's more sustainable than a grant-type funding mechanism. And it's for teachers who meet the instructional time requirements. They're appraised. In Goose Creek, we use the state appraisal T-tests, and also there's a growth measure attached to their data. Okay, so those are the qualifications. Teachers are able to earn a range of dollars depending on the school that they teach at, and it's primarily based on their high poverty or low poverty schools, and so it can be as from $3,000 all the way up to $32,000 annually, depending on how that campus or how that school is classified. Once a teacher receives a designation, the teacher will receive this lump sum bonus each year, and they keep this designation for 5 years. For 5 years. It's a voluntary program that school districts apply to participate in, and so Goose Creek has applied for this process, and we want to talk a little bit about the steps that we're taking to implement it here in Goose Creek, as well as some of the challenges. Statewide, just so you'll know, almost 14,000 teachers were designated this past year in the state of Texas. That's around 4% of teachers statewide. 346 districts are participating in TIA currently, so that's a little under 30%, around 30% of districts in the state of Texas. We are in cohort E, and so there's different cohorts that apply. So we're in cohort E, and there's many districts near us that are also in the same cohort, or they're one cohort behind us. And so it is something that several districts are applying for, including us. It's also can be a competitive piece for us to recruit teachers, where we offer TIA funds for teachers who are designated. This past year, $145 million were designated to the TIA program to teachers. Okay, Brooke Docker's going to get into the weeds and talk a little bit about the different classifications and what TIA actually looks like for teachers.
Alrighty, so the teacher incentive allotment recognizes teachers on 3 different levels. So recognize, exemplary, and master. And these different designations, they generate teacher-focused funds for districts to be able to pay their top-performing teachers. So the exact amount of allotment funding per teacher is determined by a funding formula that does take into consideration the socioeconomics of each campus that we have. So what a teacher will receive will be based on the campus that they are employed at, as well as what their level is. So are they recognized, exemplary, or master? So take, for example, Carver Elementary. A recognized teacher at Carver Elementary, so this level right here, would receive $7,100 every year for 5 years, whereas a teacher at Clark Elementary with the same recognized designation would receive $3,700. So a pretty big difference there. When we go up here to the top end, a master teacher at Carver would receive $25,800 every year for 5 years. And a teacher at Clark that has a master designation would receive $14,300. So you can see the differences based on the socioeconomics. And that's really what the program is also designed to do. We want to get our best teachers in our more high-risk or high-needs campuses. So there are 2 ways that a teacher can earn a designation. The first is through a national board certification. So a national board certified teacher will receive an automatic recognized designation, no matter what. Any teacher is eligible to receive the national board certification if they choose to do so. The other one is through a local designation system. So House Bill 3 did allow the flexibility for districts to create a system or a designation system by which they would basically designate their teachers. It can be set up in any way that would be best for each district individually, but it does have to have a student growth component and a teacher observation component. So they do tell us we have to at least include those 2 things. So in the 21-22 school year, is when Goose Creek initiated the teacher incentive allotment process. A leadership team was formed, and they were tasked with creating what our designation plan was going to look like in hopes of designating our first round of teachers. The goal of that leadership team was ultimately, how do we designate the most amount of teachers with systems that we already have in place? So we recognize T-tests as our teacher observation mechanism. And then we had to look at all the various type of student growth things that we had in place to determine what would be best to use, and again, try to get as many teachers as possible. You can see here that for our first cohort, we chose a designation measure that is weighted equally between teacher observation and student growth. We wanted to make it as simple as possible in regards to that. Our first group of teachers that we have collected data on are our pre-K kindergarten teachers, 1st through 2nd grade reading, 3rd through 8th grade reading and math, Algebra 1, and English 2. And again, that group of individual teachers, we already had a pre-test, post-test student growth measure in place to be able to look at the beginning of your data and compare it to the end of your data. So with that being said, this eligible teacher group actually captures 450 of our teachers. So that's roughly about 23%. As far as what the timeline looks like, We just wrapped up the 22-23 school year. So we collected data for that eligible teacher group. We looked at their T-test observations as well as their beginning of year and end of year growth. All of that data has been compiled and will be submitted to Texas Tech University for data validation. So Texas Tech University works hand in hand with TEA, and what they're going to be looking at is, do we have a correlation between student growth data and teacher observation data? So there has to be, it has to correlate. So if we have a distinguished teacher as far as T-test shows, they need to have a lot of student growth. We can't have overinflated T-test scores. So we will do that and submit that data that we collected this past year in October. In February of 2024, the district will be notified of system approval or denial. So it is a multi-step process. So the first part of it is we have to get our system approved by TEA. We got that done. We can check the box on that. They were happy with how we were going to designate and the measures we were going to look at. The second piece is going to be the data validation. So they will let us know in February of 2024 whether or not our system has been approved. If approved, then teacher designations will be assigned by the district in April, and then our teachers will receive their first payout in August of 2024. So you can see that from the time that we initiated the process in 21-22 to pay out in 24, it was about a 3-year process. There are a lot of benefits with being able to offer an incentive program like this. This is going to have the potential to head off a lot of the concerns that we have with teacher shortage, being able to retain our teachers, as well as attract them. There's a lot of young professionals that do not necessarily want to enter the profession because of wage disparities. And we're going to kind of be able to bridge this gap by offering this. Like Dr. Bollinger said, it is voluntary. So districts do not have to do it if they do not want to. And so we're very, very excited to be able to offer that to our teachers. But with everything, I can't talk about all the benefits without some of the challenges. One of which being that data validation piece that I talked about. So we have worked step in step with the CNI department to make sure that we are really looking at the data ahead of time and visiting with our appraisers to make sure that they are relying on the T-test rubric and grading those teacher observation scores fairly. And the second concern or challenge is going to be the morale piece of it, which we have really tried to get ahead of. With any incentive program, you are going to face the people that get it and face the people that actually do not. Also, helping them understand the why behind the first teacher group that we're pushing through, and then what that looks like as a district and how we plan to phase it out and roll in more over time. But the overall consensus after visiting the campuses and speaking with the teachers and the district admin is they're very excited that they have the opportunity or the potential to receive these bonuses that are going to be life-changing for most of them.
So the intent is over the next few years that all teachers would qualify. We just have to really work hard at building the the growth measure, because in certain subjects that's easy to capture with beginning of the year tests and end of the year tests. With other subjects it's more difficult, and so we're working through that. But we wanted to get approved by TEA, and so we took a group that we knew had a high likelihood of getting approved, and it did just that.
Do you have any questions?
I have a few.
Okay.
Go ahead. Is this something that teachers had to opt into in cohort 1, or is this something that y'all are strictly going off of the data on all those?
Strictly data. We will collect their data regardless, so it's not necessarily an opt-in system.
Okay, and then one more follow-up question, if I could, Mr. Clinton.
Certainly.
Moving forward, as we try and adopt this on a larger scale, let's talk budget, and are we looking at additional staffing to support this in the future down the road?
So 90% of the funds do have to go back to the teachers. It is part of the statute. There is 10% of spending that will go back to the district itself for TIA oversight. So if we do have to hire additional staff to be able to support this, then that would come out of the allotment funds itself. It would not come out of the district's budget. It would come from the TIA allotment funds.
Thank you.
You just answered my first question. Thank you about the 90%. But just running some quick figures, to hire somebody to administer the program, we'd have to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 or more teachers on it to break even.
So with 450 teachers that we've been able to capture data on, the way that it is broken out between the recognized, the exemplary, and the master, we will be able to designate the top 30%, which is about 135 teachers.
All right.
So we do expect
we've got
to
plenty
maximize
of
that.
But so 25 would break even, so we're going to be way over that.
Yes, absolutely.
All
And,
right.
and also that 10% funds is for TIA oversight, but there may be in the future we have to purchase or create other things for our fine arts department, for our athletics department, to make sure that we capture those teachers as well, and that will come out of those funds.
Okay. I was going to ask, we always want to know where the money's coming from, but I'm more interested in how long is that pile of money going to last, because I'm going to show my age now, and you probably won't even know what I'm talking about. Who remembers Career Ladder? Okay. Back in the dark ages, when all of the people who raised their hands were just puppies, we put a incentive program in place called Career Ladder, and you could do your dog and pony show and get all your check marks, and you would qualify for the first level. But if you moved to another district, they had to pay you the Career Ladder, or if you changed whatever. Or when Career Ladder went away by legislation, the people that were on it, we had to still pay their Career Ladder. Thank you for agreeing. So is this a guaranteed allotment for the whole, like in 2028, are we going to still have our money coming after we've been 5 years down the road?
My crystal ball is broken.
Okay, I understand that, but what does the statute say?
They are very confident that this will be able to continue because it is baked into TEA, baked into the foundation school program.
So unless it's changed in a legislative session.
Yes, correct. So unless someone goes in and says, we no longer want to offer this to teachers, then we will be able to continue to do this. But one thing that you said about if they move to another district, so if we receive teachers from other districts that already have their designation, the state will send us money to be able to pay them.
Just like a charter school.
Exactly.
Okay,
and then
cool.
if we have a teacher that we've gotten designated that leaves, then that district will have to pay them.
That's going to be a break even instead of a cost more.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. What is our pre and post test to show growth?
So right now, for our pre-K and kinder, we are using Text, Kia, and Circle, which is a state.
So for a pre-K teacher, it's just going to be this year's kids versus last year's kids?
No, it's going to be what that beginning of the year and the end of year.
Okay,
so did those kids go up a band,
and
basically.
Other levels?
And then for other levels, we are using MAPS data.
And that is?
So again, we do a test at the beginning of year, the middle of the year, and the end of year, and we will look at what that growth is.
Is that
from the
local
beginning to the
test or standardized test? Thank you. Thank you. It's the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. I love it. I love it. Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's all I have. I'd like to teach third grade math, please.
So what I heard
at Carver.
What I heard was the greatest inequity is that we're not rolling this out for all teachers simultaneously. That's the greatest inequity of it.
That is correct.
The greatest strength of this program is that for a change, It is a funded mandate
Yeah.
that you opt into, but it is funded. The money follows the employee that qualifies.
Hopefully they stay here.
Exactly.
That's the point. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, who's next?
We need to find that crystal ball.
Yeah.
We need a few people to find.
We have Ms. Kim Fox, Leslie Garcia. They'll be coming up to provide a graduation update. The board entertains several presentations leading up to graduation. This is the one following graduation, sort of a summary review of how it went. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you. And Dr. Bollinger, thank you for queuing us up. So first, we'd like to start with, we're here to have a conversation about celebrations within our community, I guess some summaries and some future plans. And so I'd also like to share with y'all, we spent way a long time together planning for this, and I hope you enjoyed yourself because we have some things to celebrate.
So with that being said, we'd like to celebrate community participation. For Stewart Career Tech, we had participants from the community that ranged from 1,100 to 1,200. Impact participation was from 1,200 to 1,300. Yeah, I did pick the pictures. I mean, if you can see, it was worth all the hard work. These kids and the smiling faces were worth it. Robert E. Lee had participation from 8,500 to 9,500. You can see the crowds are getting larger throughout. Sterling had 1,200 to 1,279, 1,200, I'm sorry, 12,790. Sorry, I'm not feeling the best. And the biggest graduation we had would be for GCM. They had 13.5. So the community wanted it back home. We came back to Stallworth, and they came. So I was happy to see that. And lots of smiling faces.
Does anybody remember what the Fertitta Center seats or Ford Park seats around? Right. So and the point is that's huge.
Yes,
okay,
that's why we wanted to highlight the participation from the community and also the students and the smiling faces. I mean, personally, it was a great experience to have it back home. So we were happy with that.
I also just want to add, as we were going through these pictures, just seeing the bird's eye view, Mr. Marquez had some great views during the thing, just really to see how our community came out. So I hope you were able to see that in our presentation. Okay, so just looking forward, some of the plans that we have as we begin to plan for this next year for graduation, we do want to reduce the number of nights for the events as well as the size of the stage rental. And so it went very deep. It was very tall. We're going to try to see some other options to see how we can reduce that cost. We also have some wishes for our diploma distribution. We'd like to talk about having it a little bit wider for our participants that are doing the shaking and things like that. We appreciate y'all adjusting with us, but have some specific plans for that, as well as some open air on the staging. It was very hot, but we want to see what other options we can come up with some airflow for that. We did go with a group that had bubbles that were happening during the celebration, but we'd really like to entertain some other types of celebrations at the conclusion of graduation. So we have some ideas for that, but we still want to have some celebration at the end, but replacing those bubbles with that new celebration opportunity. We also say that we want to MC our own event. We have some great talent within our district, and so we want to host that internally. But we also want to say that we'd like to have some additional medical support. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Continuing with the large projection, our community really responds well for that. I do believe, I want to say that that's the expectation of our families, and it does do a good presentation for our district. The live stream also, we want to continue that. The opportunity for the music within the event. We like to say staging at Gentry Junior. We think that worked really well. We appreciate the support of the ambulances that we did utilize through the event. Again, talking about how we'd like to increase some support. But also to note the safety, the emergency plan, and the security. It was from pre-planning till the end of the event. We hope that our families and participants felt very safe, and we're proud of that. So we definitely want to continue that. Just some of the highlights for the nurse. I referenced that in the previous conversation about we did have some heat-related incidents that required EMS. We did have some first aid needs, as well as a couple of what we'll call medical emergencies with people in the stands, as well as our own nursing staff just doing some of the precautionary things with our students that had medical situations. So that is something that we want to increase the support for next year. So with all those celebrations, this is our plan for the dates for the coming year. Partnering with our local Lee College, we plan to host Stewart Career Tech and Impact at Lee College's arena, their facility, on the 21st. We have some very exciting news on how we can partner to show some of those associate's degrees and some of the accomplishments they've had with the college. GCM, again, returning to Stallworth on the 22nd, the 23rd for Sterling, and Lee High School, the 24th. So that's our current planned dates moving forward, reducing, we'll call it the stage requirements, the stage needs, to the 3 days as opposed to the previous 5 days.
So they're going to postpone their graduation ceremony.
Just for our kids, though?
Yes.
Okay. I was going, that's not big enough for Lee College and us. Okay. So they're going to postpone our associate degree folks. So will they walk twice, or will we have one big walk?
One big walk. And so we'll have the collaboration of their board and our board both there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is that time for the May 24th Lee High School correct at 8:30 a.m.? And is that on a Friday?
Sir.
That is on a Friday? And why have we chosen a Friday for that graduation? My concern is visiting family from out of town, people that work. That may not be feasible for many.
Do you understand your concerns? Some of the conversations that we've had with our team, a couple of them being that we still have school in session the days before, and then leading up to be able to not have 5 separate nights. Having that in that morning does also provide us with an opportunity should we need to postpone one of the other events that we have. We still have a stage there. So you notice that we have some different variations of time.
And I do have serious concerns about an 8:30 a.m. Friday morning graduation as a parent.
I think just another
What's the last day of school next year?
Wednesday.
The Wednesday? Okay.
Also, one of the considerations for saying 8:30, and I do understand your concern, is also the heat. So the heat of the day, most of our families would be out of the stadium by the time the heat of the day is there. Just a thought.
And we did host 3 graduations in one day previously.
But indoors.
Starting at 8:30.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Indoors.
With air conditioning.
Yeah.
And the thought was impeding the holiday weekend, allowing them to have the graduation ceremony Friday morning and then have the whole weekend, holiday weekend. To that evening.
Nobody wants to get up that early. Say that right now. Nobody wants to get up that early. I mean, it's not really me, but I know.
To me, me, it is. Yeah.
That early in the morning, they'll be fighting, killing each other. That early.
If that's on a Friday night, why can't it be at 7:30 on a Friday night? I mean,
It definitely could.
You know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and that way you got the whole weekend to do whatever you want to do. You know, plus I don't get up to 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, so I wouldn't make it on time.
That's who I was talking about. You.
Yeah.
You can barely get here at 6.
Yeah. But I
So-
beat you today.
We'll definitely take it under consideration. Like we said, this was our first presentation of options.
Yeah.
Hey, I
We'll
ain't
definitely
mad.
come back.
I'm just trying to make it better. That's all. You know. I can see the little hurdle there.
Yeah.
Cross.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. So the next one, would like to give you some historical information. Of course, Leslie and I have inherited a lot of the information provided in this slide from previous people that were supporting graduation. So the estimates, you'll see we've got the information together that we can. So looking down at the 2023 line, this is some of the summary of the expenses from this last year's graduation. I do want to make note that the reason why there is a draft is because many of the items, even in the projections, are projections for the future. But some of the costs that that we estimate not to incur next year are things that we had to buy because this was our first round at home. So some of the things like tarps, chairs, removable signage, things like that will be eliminated from the cost moving forward because we now have the number of chairs to support our event. As well as, like we mentioned earlier, the DJ, things like that we will then host in-house. Some of the other elements that we are adjusting the figures for going forward are things like we had it 5 nights versus we will have it 3 nights. So the cost of security will go down. We anticipate the cost of the rental of the stage, the streaming, and the sound that connects to that big stage would also decrease based on the fewer number of nights that we plan to host. So this is our just historical snapshot of the cost as well as a future estimate that we're saying is in draft because we will wait for the contracts for those.
The facility cost is not zero.
So I hear what you're saying. Talking with Dr. Price in preparation for this meeting, that was the recommendation because he said that it was not an additional cost that we had to go and find because it was our own facility.
We paid for electricity and
Yes, sir.
plumbing and water,
Yes, sir.
and it wasn't free.
Agreed.
But it will be less than it was no matter what if we do fewer nights. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that, but Stallworth is not a zero cost.
I completely hear what you're saying. Some of the measures that we've talked about, even with our payroll and finance, is some of those things were not tracked because we had not had our own people doing some of those things. Yeah. And so the tracking mechanisms will improve now that we have more targets to know what to focus on.
And it could even be said that the facility cost us over $5 million this year because we had to make it pretty.
And it really was pretty.
It was pretty, yeah. But, you know,
yes, sir.
But let's just remember the facility's not free.
Yes, sir. I'm glad.
I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of people surprised.
I'll take it.
I think the biggest thing about it that brought everything out was the stage. I mean, it was like going to a concert to see Mr. Clem.
Oh, don't go there. I do have one complaint, though. Nurse Pena would not excuse me to go home any of the nights. So
we'll definitely share that with her. She's sad that she was not here tonight, so I'll be sure to share. But before I leave, yes, sir, did you have something?
What you're about to do, I just don't want to slide past this slide.
Go for it. This is an important
critical.
slide. So if I could just elaborate on this for a second. So there was a huge team of people that came together for this event. Many of these people are sitting behind me in the room, and I hope they're patting themselves on the back because really bringing the efforts together was, it was like bringing a community together. So myself, Kevin Robleski, Brandy Onken, Carol Jones, and Leslie were what we'll call the core team. But Matt Flood's group, and I say group because there's a whole lot of people behind these names, so please don't misinterpret that there's one name listed. There's a ton of people behind. Abel and his team with the maintenance crew, and they were out very late every night. I hope you saw them. They stayed behind. Mr. Marquez and his team pre and post. Chief's people were everywhere. Pena and even the extra people she recruited along the way. Walter Scheid, all the transportation, they reacted and responded even as the days went on to make it better. And of course, community engagement with Ms. David's team, with all the streaming and everything that went behind all of our production. So really to celebrate some great work from a whole community.
Let's clap for all those folks.
Yes.
I want to say a special shout out to the Angels who got me a special chair.
Absolutely.
So
I wouldn't embarrass myself.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. That concludes our...
Other questions or comments?
I just want to commend not only the team, but everyone that stood behind the team on a job well done.
Yeah.
It was a big focal point of the community, and we had the people that were behind it and the people that weren't. And amazing job. And I'm glad it's back in Baytown. I expect it'll stay back in Baytown. But congratulations to not only those on the team, but let's recognize everyone else that was there. I have never seen so many administrators in shorts and hat and sweating as I did that week. I was there every night, and I saw what y'all did. The rest of us saw the work that y'all put into it. And as a board member, I appreciate that. As a community member, I appreciate that. And if I was a parent in the stands, I would appreciate it as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. It's nice to move to action items on a high note like that. So with that said, we'll move to agenda item 9A, consideration of the consent agenda. Dr. O'Brien?
Yes, President Clem, the administration team brings before you action item 9A1, waiver request from Texas Virtual School Network, TXVSN course review process. Number 2, second option to extend RFP for plumbing contractor services on an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity basis, IDIQ. Number 3, second option to extend RFP for solid waste management services. Number 4, award of RFP for student athletic insurance. Number 5, second option to extend CSP for technology equipment, supplies, and related services. Number 6, TASB localized policy manual update 120. Number 7, superintendent's expenditures. Administration recommends approval of those consent agenda items.
Anyone like to pull an item for individual consideration or ask questions before we have a motion? Then I would seek a motion concerning the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we consider adopting the consent agenda items 1 through 7.
I'll second. We have a motion from Mr. Renteria and a second from myself to approve consent agenda items 1 through 7 as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. See 6-4-0 against, motion passes. Future board agenda items.
I would like to revisit the reorganization of the Board of Trustees when the full board is present at a future meeting.
Got it. Any others? Board trainings. Have we done our new board member in-house, or do we have a date?
No, sir. We're setting that up for August.
Okay, great. Good to know. Do we need any additional board meetings or change any dates we haven't already changed?
Well, we have authorization to hire teachers over the summer, but I do not have authorization to hire administrators, and nor would I want to without board consent. There may be a request late in the summer to host a short meeting just for that purpose.
Okay.
For some vacancies that we have right now that we may be filling over the next few weeks. So it would be a called meeting. Probably normally we do those at noon, probably last 20 minutes or less. We'd need 4 members
we
present
need
for
4
that.
folks.
What happened to attrition?
There's a whole lot of that going on, sir. There's a whole lot of that going on.
I mean,
Do you see anyone in the deputy superintendent's job?
Yeah, there was, I think
Just a
the
question.
resignations outweighed the elections this time. But
Yes, sir.
that's always a good question.
Great question.
All right, so you don't have a date for that to request at this time?
Not this time.
Okay. Then with that said, the board will now recess to a closed session based on parts or all of Texas Government Code sections 551.071, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 082, 83, 84, or 87. No action will be taken while the board is in closed meeting, and the time is 8:13. Welcome back all. The board will now reconvene into open session. The time is 11:07 p.m. No decisions were made while the board was in closed session. We will now move to 9E, consideration of personnel.
This evening, administration brings to the board the consideration of approving the elections and accepting the resignations and retirements as presented.
I move to approve.
Second.
Motion from myself and a second from Mr. Renteria to approve elections, resignations, and retirements as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. 6-4-0 against, motion passes.
We do have some administrative personnel. Administration brings before you the consideration of a school counselor at Alamo Elementary, Ruby Moulin.
I move to approve the school counselor.
I have a motion from Mr. Campisi and a second from Mr. Renteria to approve the school counselor as presented. Discussion? All in favor? 6-4-0 against, motion passes.
Administration brings to the board this evening approving the selection of an instructional specialist for mathematics 9 through 12, Bridget Yates.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Mrs. Barat Tim and a second from Mr. Renteria to approve instructional specialist mathematics as presented. Discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. 6-4-0 against, motion passes.
Administration brings to the board for approval to the selection of an assistive technology specialist for special education, Sarah Belville.
I move to approve the specialist.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Campisi, second from Mr. Renteria to approve the assistive technology specialist. Discussion? All in favor? 6-4-0 against, motion passes. 9F, consider and take possible action on Level 3 employee grievance hearing.
I move that the board deny the appeal and uphold the decision of Level 2.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Renteria and a second from Mr. Campisi to uphold the Level 2, deny the Level 3 request and uphold the Level 2. Any discussion? All in favor? 6-4-0 against, motion passes. Consider Level 3 GF grievance filed by Byron Schermbeck and related actions.
I move that the board deny the grievance and the requested relief.
I second. I have a motion from Mr. Renteria and a second from myself to deny the grievance filed by Mr. Schermbeck. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And abstention? I have 5-4, 1 abstention. Motion passes. That brings us to our favorite item 10. It is 11:10 p.m. and we are adjourned.
Well, why do you think I come?